Hello everybody, welcome back to Let's Create with Sharon Lindley, previously known as Vivid Days. You are seeing me recycle a board or a piece of art that I did many years ago that never 100% bonded with me. So I came in and I used acrylic paint, burgundy, to give that first coat, and here are the colours that I am inspired to use. Now that colour there is the acrylic paint color used on the base, so it's a burgundy. If you're going to use your acrylics in your resin, please be mindful that it can cause the resin to cure quicker, and it can go marshmallowy if you don't have your proportions right. So Sharon's hot tip is only add your acrylic paint to your resin just before you're about to pour it on your board. The reason I painted underneath was just to ensure if there was any transparency that it would uphold the colour better, and around the edges so that if the resin doesn't go over the edge, it's the same colour. You can see some raised area, that was where I used some crystals, so some of those still do come through on the board, but it's added value. I didn't want to necessarily keep them there, but I just wanted to see what I could do with this piece. So I used originally 400 mils of resin on my first coat, and then I came in on the second layer with 500 mils, but I did have some spare to work on a small little canvas piece that you will see on another video. Now what I'm doing is helping my resin spread out. When I'm going to add any kind of detail, I want my resin to be as level as possible in most areas to try and keep the contrasting colors in the areas that I wanted them to be. But I was mainly going with a feeling. I have worked on somebody's book recently, and I used a combination of the burgundy with some darker shades, and that's what inspired this piece today. And I didn't know originally what I was going to have, but it turned out being what I think is a beautiful florist invoked piece. So I used a black, which was a black resin dye, and I'm coming in with some fluoro pink. I wasn't too sure if this would add value, but it did because it's transparent, and that's what made me question the value it would add. But I'm just keeping the colors towards the middle and mixing them up a little bit randomly, no rhyme or reason, just trying to make sure that there was an even distribution of color. I probably went a little bit too on the edge of the resin I needed, and what I'm trying to say with that is I could have done with 420 mils of resin instead of 400, but never fear, it was my first coat, so I knew I would be adding more. The resin would continue to self-level, but when it stretched thin, or as thin as it was, I got a little bit nervous. Will all my resin level out? Will all the gaps be filled, or will it have dimples? And these are some of the things you need to take into consideration. Now, there are resin calculators out there. You can tell them the size of the board you're working on, and it will tell you approximately how much you need. I roughly go by intuition and my history with resin, knowing what roughly 400 mils will cover. But if you're unsure, resin calculator it out, and different viscosities of resin will mean your mixture may need to go up or down slightly. Anyway, I'm Sharon. I digress there. I hope wherever you are in the world, you are safe and well. And if you feel that my video is adding value to you in any way, shape or form, please consider giving me a like, a subscribe, a share. As always, comments are always welcome. I love to interact with you all. And I am back and trying to get consistent videos out each week. And I'm starting from scratch again. I know that I have to be humble with this. But that's the joy of building your channel back up again, is one, you have the opportunity to rebrand yourself. Two, you can work on content that you really enjoy, so that as you get new subscribers, they're used to you mixing it up. And my channel is always about learning art, sharing that process with you to encourage you to enjoy and explore art, and keep sharing with you all. And I learn as much from you as you learn from me. But let's get on with what am I doing here. Well, great question. I am just now, this is where I'm panicking. I'm going into my cups and I'm getting out of every little bit of resin. And again, the only thing on my mind is the distribution of colour. Do I have enough in all the way across the middle area? And then when I've got this part done, you'll see me come and I will start to apply my torch. If you are hearing some banging, I do apologise. We're having our bathroom renovated and I am sat as far away from the building work as can be. However, the noises are still coming through. If that does bother you, please feel free to turn the volume down. The resin I am using is 1:1 ratio, where you mix it for 4 minutes. I let mine stand a little bit to remove as many air bubbles as possible. I don't use all these fancy machines, and I apply my resin when it's on the verge of going towards curing. That means I have more control over it. When I apply my heat gun, it's just a basic one that I get from Bunnings Hardware. It's no favourite, it gets as sticky as anything. But it's ideal for running over your resin to start with evenly to heat it up, and then go in the concentrated area, but always moving it. Don't let it touch the resin, and that way you're not going to heat it up too much. Now remember, when you are adding heat to your resin, that is when you are releasing a lot more fumes. So make sure you are in a well ventilated area, windows and doors are open, and if you have the right PPE, please make sure that you wear them. Safety first with resin. Now, I've been working with resin for absolutely many years. I had almost a break from it from nearly 2 years. It's still a medium I love to work with, but it gets very sticky and I get over being sticky. But I'm just back in enjoying playing with it again, as well as other mediums. So have a look at my back catalogue. There's lots of things in there that are tutorials to help you if you're interested in resin, or if you want to explore other mediums, you'll see that with in my back catalogue as well. I am now adding a lollipop stick, as I call them, and just trying to drag through little bits of it. At this stage, I don't know why, it's intuition. I just wanted it to bleed out a little bit into the burgundy, but not too much. I wanted some of the colours to go over each other to blend together. And I could see the base that I'm happy with, but I wasn't too happy with the area I'm working in now, the black area, and where it's gone very lined and zigzaggy. But I'm contemplating what I can do on that with the next level. But you have to also let your resin cure, because it will still move a little bit. Some effects may still appear on there, and sometimes walking away and thinking about your next step is something for you to really consider in your work. Walk away, come back with fresh eyes and see what you're happy with. I'm just going over with the bits that I did bring out with the lollipop sticks, just to soften the edges. So just applying heat to that particular area. I'm not too worried about dust at this stage, because I know that I am going to be applying another layer, but I did make sure that my board was level before I started working on this project. And I dust my workspace very regularly, because that was another thing that used to frustrate me with resin. I ain't one of these artists that can just have perfect crystal clear resin with not one little bit of dust in there. I just have to embrace it and see that part of the art now. Maybe that's a cop out. I'm not too sure. I'm now applying a little bit of heat into the areas that I wasn't unhappy with and trying to let it ripple out and bleed into each other and see if I can create any effects that I enjoyed or any rainbow effects. Now the pigments I'm using from Resin Arts from Leslie Onestad. She makes amazing pigments, and I've used a bit of acrylic in there as well. Don't feel that you have to use the exact same pigments or the exact same colors that I'm using. Work with whatever you have, but I would encourage you to check out Leslie's channel and look at the pigments that she provides. They change regularly. They're very seasonal. She is ethically resourcing her pigments as well, and they're just a beauty to work with resin. As I'm finalizing this stage, you can see that my colors are bleeding out a little bit more, and I'm adding a little bit more blue over the areas that I'm not happy with, but I know I'm not going to be able to fix it. One, because if I do, the color's going to cover up all that burgundy, and I really like the depth of the burgundy. And two, I don't have much resin left, so I'm just going to wait a little bit and talk to you when I come back for the next layer. I'm taking you in now for a little flyover of the first layer and some of the depth in there. The colors and the movement I absolutely love. I can see the areas I want to fix up, but overall we are off to a great start, and that blue, the purple and pink, and how that pops off that burgundy is just lush. So this is where I started to get the vibe of florals, or like that positive energy from nature and flowers, and I was, yeah, let's go with this. Let's bring on layer 2. Do you see any particular things sticking out to you that you enjoy? I would love to hear from you. Sometimes you see things that I don't see. Let me know what you think to the color combination. Let me know if you've worked with Leslie's pigments before, and what do you feel when you see this piece. What I'm using now is actually for nail art, and you can get this from Amazon. You can get it from any craft store online, but just put nail art tape. I just felt like I wanted to add a little bit of something, and this one is beautiful because it's got the very beautiful purple that's within the flowers, but it also has an iridescent sparkle to it, and I love to add a bit of sparkle to it. And sometimes you just have to take a leap of faith, and I know that I wanted to add some, and as I'm putting it down, I'm working out where I felt that I wanted it to go, considering some of this would be covered up again with the next layer that I was going to bring in. But as I started applying it, I thought, yep, that is making those color pop. It's self-adhesive. The plastic set that you see me using or pulling it from helps you keep control of your tape. And you can see a little bit of sparkle there, but I'll show it you more towards the end. And I felt that I wanted to work with rows of 3 and shoot off in different directions. And that's really all that was going through my mind there. I just thought, what do I want to add? Let's have a little look. I didn't have to commit to it if I didn't like it, but the minute I started applying it, I thought, yeah, that's really going to add a little bit of interest, controlled bling as I like to call it. But it's beautiful to work with this nail art tape within any resin projects. There you go, you get to see a little bit of that beautiful iridescent, and I feel that this added value, but it is an optional extra. Now this is where I mixed up slightly more resin, so I went with 500ml, but I did have resin left over for a separate piece that I worked on. I know that I wanted to protect the integrity of the first base, so you can see I'm adding clear resin to the left and right side, but keeping the middle free from resin for now. I do end up spreading the clear resin over everything, and then I allow it to self-level. The reason you allow it to self-level is when you add the color that I want to add, I want to make sure I control where the resin is going to go, and by doing that you want it to have more or less self-leveled. I'm using a silicone little spreader. You don't have to use this, but I find that it works really well. I got this one from Amazon. I think it's actually, this was designed for if you want to take photo prints off, and there's a special glue. But I always like to look for things that I think, you know what, I can use that in my art. That's pretty cool. Why not? People who are true like artists, or should I say craft people, we know that part of our joy is buying new supplies. Not necessarily using all the supplies we've got, but finding a reason to buy new supplies. I am just going through and adding not all of the colours, but concentrating it over the black area and the part of the images that I don't find pleasing. And restraint is what I was trying to have here, because I know that it would still keep blending, there'd still be a bit of movement, but I'm sticking to the colour tones that I used below so that it should blend beautifully. And the reason for it obviously was to cover the black, which I've just mentioned, but also to add a bit more 3D and a bit more depth and make it more, in my opinion, like a bunch of beautiful flowers, a bouquet of positive energy flowers. I do come and add a little bit of the burgundy and the fluorescent pink again, and I come through and add a little bit more of a metallic colour. I can't remember, I'm waiting to see if it's the bronze I used or the gold. It's been a little while since I created this. But I'm really happy that I kept it in a line and a formation. It did move towards the left a little bit, but that was okay, because that was the area that if it was going to blend over or bleed over, that was the area that I wanted to create a different kind of interest or pop in colour. But you've been with me for a while, You've heard me talk through my processes and the why. I hope that you're finding this is adding value to you. If you do have any questions that you don't feel I've answered throughout this process, leave a comment for me and let me know what you think to the end result. But if you feel it has added value to you, remember, a thumbs up, a subscribe, a share, comments are always welcome. Oh, there it is. I went with a bright gold colour. That really did add value. But I'm going to leave you, and the music or the noises that you're hearing are from my local area, and I wanted to bring a little bit of Australia to you. Some of this is around Hymes Beach or Jervis Bay, and we had a little walk out in country, so you're going to hear some of the noises from around my local area where I went on a mini vacay. But keep safe. I hope that you're well. I hope you're finding time to create. And thank you for choosing to spend some time with me. I really appreciate that. Bye bye.